Don't touch my child. The CEO screamed, until the single dad used sign language, "Let me help." The restaurant was buzzing with the mid-morning crowd, but all eyes turned to the entrance when a small commotion erupted near a corner table. A woman, impeccably dressed in a designer suit, her hair perfect, her posture sharp, was standing protectively in front of a stroller. "Don't touch my child," she screamed, her voice slicing through the chatter. The words were harsh, but the fear behind them was raw. People whispered among themselves, unsure what had triggered the outburst. At the table next to hers, a man quietly finished his coffee. He was unassuming, early 30s, worn jacket, a kind face lined with quiet resilience. His name was David, a single dad who had mastered the art of patience. He had learned to navigate the world with one hand on his toddler, balancing life's chaos with a soft smile. David noticed the mother's panic wasn't just over a stranger. It was over her child's safety and perhaps her own sense of control. But what caught his eye wasn't fear alone. It was how the child, barely 2, was fussing, tangled in straps, flailing little arms. David's own son was just a month younger. "Hey," he said gently, stepping closer, kneeling to meet the child's level. "Let me help." The CEO froze. Her eyes narrowed. "I don't need your help." "Stay away!" David didn't step back. Instead, he smiled and slowly, deliberately signed the words, "Let me help." It was the child who reacted first. The little hands reached out instinctively, recognizing the calm in David's gestures. The mother's eyes flickered between disbelief and suspicion. Her child's tiny fingers were now curling around David's, relaxed and trusting. "Wait," she whispered. She watched, fascinated, as David carefully adjusted the stroller straps. His hands steady, his eyes patient. He didn't rush. He didn't judge. For a few minutes, time slowed and the tension melted. Finally, David straightened up, giving a gentle nod. The mother's voice caught in her throat. How did you—" "I know sign language," David said simply. "And I know what it's like to worry about your child. It's okay. He's safe." For a long moment, she just stared at him. The edge in her eyes softened, replaced with something she hadn't felt in years. Relief and gratitude. You're a father?" she asked. "Yes," he replied. "And I understand." She sank into her chair, exhausted, humbled, and a little embarrassed. I didn't realize." David smiled softly. "We're all learning. Today we just needed each other." The child giggled, clapping tiny hands, oblivious to the drama that had unfolded. And for the first time in a long while, the CEO laughed. Not at sarcasm or power plays, but at the simplicity of human connection. As David packed up to leave, she called after him. "Wait, thank you, truly, I needed that." He just waved, lifting his own son in the stroller. "Kindness doesn't need thanks," he said. And with that, he walked out, leaving behind a room transformed, not by wealth or status, but by an act of pure, quiet humanity. That day, the CEO realized that power wasn't about protecting, controlling, or screaming. It was about trust, connection, and allowing kindness to bridge the gap between strangers. And for David, it was a reminder that later that week, the CEO found herself thinking about David. And not just because of what he did for her child. It was something about the calm in his eyes, the way he didn't rush, the way he communicated without words. It made her question her own approach to life. How often had she yelled, assumed the worst, or built walls instead of bridges? She decided to act. Not with a board meeting or a press release, but in a small, personal way. She arranged for a donation to the local community center, where David's son attended playgroup. She asked the staff there to thank the kind father who reminded everyone what it means to be human. Meanwhile, David didn't know any of this. He was busy juggling work, parenting, and the little everyday miracles that made life both exhausting and beautiful. But one afternoon, a small envelope arrived at his apartment. Inside was a handwritten note. "Thank you for showing me how to slow down, trust, and care. You reminded me what really matters. A grateful mother." David smiled. His son clapped, reaching for the envelope as if sensing the love inside. And for the first time in weeks, David allowed himself a quiet moment of pride, not for himself, but for the small ripple of kindness he had created. A few months later, the CEO requested a meeting with him, not for business, but to learn more about the ways he navigated life with patience and care. What started as a chance encounter in a crowded restaurant had blossomed into something unexpected, a bridge between two worlds, built on empathy, respect, and genuine human connection. And in that meeting, she finally admitted something she had never said aloud. "I thought I had to protect everything by myself. But you showed me that letting someone help doesn't make you weak, it makes you human." David simply nodded, signing once more. "Kindness is always enough." The CEO laughed softly, a sound without tension or pride. And in that laugh there was gratitude, understanding, and the promise that a simple act of compassion can ripple far beyond the moment it begins. As David walked out of the office that day, holding his child's tiny hand, he realized something he had always known but now felt even more deeply. The world changes not through power or fear, but through the quiet courage of caring, the bravery of reaching out, and the humility to trust. And sometimes, that's all it takes to transform a life.